Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first webinar about the Emergency Relief Community Sport and Recreation Relief Grant. My name is Tommy Wharton. I'm the Senior Project Lead on this particular emergency grant. I'm going to pass it over to a couple other OSN team members if you want to do introductions as well. Start with you, David.
I'm David Siegel, and I'm from Impact North, and we have programmed the grant application, and I will lead you through a demo of it today so that you understand exactly how to interact with the system and submit your application.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Patsy Coyle, and I'm the Managing Director with Ontario Sport Network.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bianca Bond. I'm manager of the National Sport Trust Fund and Digital with Ontario Sport Network.
And fantastic. And again, I'm Tommy Wharton, Senior Project Lead on this emergency grant. First off, thank you everyone for joining us today for this webinar. I'd also like to thank right off the top the province, so specifically the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, Culture Industries for their funding. This funding is providing OSN the ability to deliver this grant to community level sport and recreation organizations who have sustained losses due to the pandemic. This is a very, very exciting grant opportunity, and we're going to take the next 45 minutes to walk you through, as David said, the actual application. We'll actually do some screen shares. We'll also walk you through some key timelines and eligibility criteria, as well as some elements on our website where there's some frequently asked questions. We'll highlight a few of those and then open for questions. As Bianca said, or what came up earlier when you came on this Zoom call, we are recording this, so we're going to put it on our website once completed, as with the other webinars that we're going to be having tonight at 7 o'clock and repeated on Thursday. So again, so just right off the top, to just frame what this application of this grant opportunity is. Special thanks again to the ministry. This is due to it's going to support organizations that have experienced financial hardships and are going to demonstrate financial needs to get back to return to programming. This is a unique opportunity for community sport that is perhaps not often supported in this way in terms of this grant application. Just to be clear, there is other opportunities for funding through your respective PSO or MSO, all that, and that's provincial sport organization or multi-sport organization, and that is clear on our website. And if there's any questions later on, we'll field those as well. But I want to dive right into it right now with David, who is going to do a screen share of the application. It's very, very user-friendly, but there are some sort of intricacies of it in terms of functionality. I'm going to pass it over to you, David.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. I'm hoping everybody can see my screen right now. So this is the login screen. So for the first time, if you have not signed in, if you have not logged in, this is where you need to sign up for a new account. If you have signed in, obviously enter your email address and the password. So just to show you quickly, it starts you off asking for the basic information: first name, last name, email address, confirm your email address, your mobile phone number, a password. It asks you to do a slightly complicated password just for security purposes, and then of course create an account. Once you submit create an account, it will send you an email to that account to verify that the email is accurate, which is good because then obviously you're going to receive all communications from us. And then of course, once you've received that email, you will click the link and then you can sign in. And once you sign in, you'll be able to start with your applications and of course fill in your extended profile. In your extended profile, that's where you would be putting in your personal information, such as I've already filled in, so a lot of this is already automatic, but you will be asked to put in your personal address, city, obviously Ontario's auto-populated postal code. Your phone number and email will be auto-populated, and then it'll ask you to add the organization that you're representing. So you would put in the full name, put in your title, and then what year you assume the position. Now, if you only represent one organization, wonderful, that's fantastic. You'll be finished here and I'll show you the next step. But if you happen to be in a position where you're going to submit applications for a number of different organizations because you're part of different leagues or different organizations or whatnot, then you can add another organization, and that will open up a new box for you to be able to fill in the information. And then of course, at the same time, you can delete them if you don't have, if you say, no, you know what, someone else is going to take care of this, not me, and you can go ahead and delete. Now, before you can proceed on this page, if you try to submit right now, it's going to tell you you have a problem, because the two things you need to do, number one, you need to actually read the privacy policy terms and conditions, and then actually click that you agree. And then you also have to click the anti-spam legislation, just saying that we are able to email you about this. Once those two things are done, then you can move on, and it'll ask you to go ahead and submit your application. So now I have a couple of these in progress right now. Just give it a second to load. So I have two organizations in there. So the first one in progress, I have the ability to continue or withdraw. The second one I've completely submitted. I'm going to leave that alone. If I were to try and submit a new application right now under one of my two organizations, it's not going to let me do that because I already have an application in for each. So if you're already in progress or have one submitted, it's going to tell you that you can't, it's already progress or submitted. So this way, it means that you are only allowed to submit one application for each organization. So again, I'll go back to this screen where I list my different applications. And again, I've got the two of them in there. So if I were to withdraw my application, then I would be able to start from scratch. But since I already have these in progress, obviously I could go in and I could just continue. So I'm going to show you one that I've already submitted for this organization, Thornhill Slow Pitch. So just to let you know, it's a very simple application. It may feel like a lot, but it's only 4 steps really. And I'll go through each of these 4 steps, but you'll know exactly where you are when you're in the midst of working it. And of course, if you are halfway and you say, you know what, I need to go somewhere else. I have a meeting. I need to finish this tomorrow, whatever the case is, you can always save your progress and come back to it the next day. So you don't have to finish this in one sitting. So first page is ensuring your qualification. Welcome to the Emergency Community Sport Recreation Relief Grant application. Please check each of the following to confirm. If you do not provide accurate and truthful information, your application will be disqualified. So again, the key here is be as accurate, be as honest as possible, because the underlying information that you're providing, as well as some of the support materials like financial statements and whatnot, they're all going to back up whatever you're saying. So make sure it's as accurate as possible. You have to absolutely select all 4 of these first check marks. This is qualifying you as somebody who may be eligible for this grant. My organization, and by organization, we mean community level sport and recreation organization, club, teams, leagues, and association, directly delivers and is responsible for the operations of a sport or recreation activity in Ontario. So number 1, you have to be in Ontario, you have to serve Ontario. If you don't, you're obviously not going to qualify for this. Number 2, I will provide full end of year financial statements from 2019 to 2021. They will show revenues, cash balances, proof of loss, etc. If my organization cannot present year-end financial statements, I will be able to present receipts and invoices that demonstrate costs incurred due to the pandemic. So the key to this one is just saying, if you're not the person to be able to do this, maybe you need to find someone else in your organization who should be doing it. But if you're going through with this application, you need to have access to your financial statements or be able to tell the story through receipts and invoices that say, this is what happened to us during the pandemic. This is why we're applying to this grant. Number 3, my organization is not currently a member of PSO or MSO, or my organization is either the PSO or member club of Ontario Grappling Association or Ontario Racquetball, or my organization can demonstrate significant revenue loss of my league or team due to large reductions in gate receipts, ticket sales, and sponsorship loss. Tommy, do you want to elaborate on that one?
Sure. Thank you, David. So again, this is highlighted on our main landing page at the Ontario Sport Network, but this is a requirement in terms of the funding that we've received from the ministry. That second bullet point, or that third bullet point, captures who is eligible. I articulated earlier that there is actually a grant if you're a member club of your PSO that you can apply for. But the intent of this specific grant is to capture those organizations, teams, leagues, associations that exist outside the provincial sport organization stream. I know it's a little bit wordy there, but that is precisely what's written in our agreement with the ministry in terms of who this grant is supposed to serve. So I'll pass it over to David again, but this first piece, you're basically ticking every box, and it's the eligibility.
Great. Number 4, my organization can demonstrate financial need due to the challenges that have occurred related to COVID. So feels a little similar, but again, it's just a very similar statement, just saying like, look, we absolutely can show it. That's the story we're about to tell. Clearly, if you couldn't check this box, then what are you doing here? And then finally, number 5, one of the following applies to my club organization. So you do have to click one of these. So you can click multiple, but one being increased operating costs related to the pandemic. Number 2, reduction of members and membership revenue during the pandemic. Number 3, increased facility costs required to comply with the reopening Ontario 2020 and regulations. Something just to note quickly, these are actually links. So if you needed more information about what technically is a PSO or an MSO, or what the reopening Ontario 2020 looked like, by all means, go ahead. And then, of course, operating deficits to maintain programming for fewer participants. And finally, other. If there's something that doesn't get encompassed by those 4, by all means, click other and go ahead and describe exactly what your challenges were. Okay, and you don't need to be wordy there because you'll have a chance later on to tell the true story. And then finally, this checkbox, this yes checkbox. I understand that the emergency relief fund administered by the Ontario Sport Network is to provide financial support for activities and programming not previously supported by other grants. So this is just to say that, again, if you are looking for other grants, if you are applying to other grants, it's to say that you have to understand that OSN is providing the support that's not supported by your other grants. So just to make sure that you're in line with requirements of single applications. Tommy, I don't know if you want to talk about that at all.
No, just you've done a great job there. Just something I maybe could have explained it a little bit better. If your sport or recreation activity doesn't even have a PSO, I see some very looking at the participants today. That's the case for many of the organizations. This is the grant for you. So this is the unique aspect of this particular opportunity. If your recreation activity or sport is not recognized at all as having a higher PSO recognized by the ministry, this grant is for you. So I think this is a unique aspect, and I can't say enough how exciting this is in terms of supporting you to get your organization back on track.
So then basically, I'm going to uncheck these just to show you. If you try to save and continue without having all of these checked, it will highlight with a little red box and it will tell you you need to check all of these. If you are unable to check all of these, then technically you may not qualify for a grant. And of course, you can send us an email to ask questions. But in the meantime, if you do qualify for all of them, go ahead and check those, and then you can save and continue and you move on to the next page. So this is the basic information page. So please note, and I mentioned this before, but I'll say it again, only one application can be submitted per organization. So if your organization has already had an application submitted, please log in through the original account if you wish to modify it. If you haven't got access to that info, contact us for support. So if somebody else in your organization may have started an application or completed an application, you two should talk and you should basically say, okay, so which of us is able to provide a better application, and make sure you only have one in the system. If an accidental second application is submitted, only the one that was submitted first. These are all time stamped and dated. So only the first one will be considered. The second will be disqualified. So make sure that if there's multiple people in your organization who might be taking this initiative, make sure that you're all talking to each other and put your best foot forward. So the first question under the basic information, are we profit or for-profit or not for profit? So I think that's pretty clear. So obviously you're going to click the one that applies to you. Following by which best describes your organization. Are we a club, a recreational association, sport academy, league, sports association, sports team, or other? So again, if you select club, it will ask you to put the league that you're affiliated with in, and we ask for no acronyms. So, for example, if it's a, don't put like YAHL, put York Alumni Hockey League, put the full name in. So for club and sports team, it will ask you for what league you're in. For the rest of them, just a checkbox. And then of course, if for some reason your organization type doesn't seem to be encompassed or you're not 100% sure, click other and just describe exactly what you are. So in this case, I'm just going to pretend we're a league. Okay. So if your organization has received any other funding, grants, or relief from any municipal, provincial, or federal programs, i.e. CERB, CEWS, CRA, CEBA, please describe the nature of this support. So again, that's just a place where you can type in a little bit about that. Otherwise, you can just put NA if nothing applies. Please provide some history, highlights, or accolades for your organization. So this is a place where you can have a little bit of, be a little creative, be a little fun. By all means, we want to know a little bit more about your organization, your team, your association, your league, whatever. We want a little bit of interesting information about how long has it been around, what type of people have potentially been part of it, have you traveled and done some interesting things. I mean, just anything, awards that you may have won, trophies you may have won, anything to that effect. Take this time. You have 250 words. You certainly don't need to use all of them, but you have the ability to put in anything that you want here just to give a little character and a little creativity about your organization. Your organization mailing information. So you're going to put in, so this is the address and the city postal for the actual organization itself. So you had entered your personal information before. Now this is about the organization where it operates out of, as well as, of course, the website URL. Don't include HTTP, HTTPS, www. Just literally put in whatever it is, .com, .ca, .org, whatever your URL is. Please outline the sports, recreational activity or activities that your organization delivers. So if you're part of an MSO, you can certainly put in your multiple sports. If you're a single sport, you put in that single sport. And if you have recreational activity or activities, then by all means put those in here. So if two of them don't apply to you, which that should be the case, then you just put in NA. And of course, just put in the one that actually does matter to you. If you're a multi-sport, then you'll put all of them in separated by commas, and you can put NA in the others. So you've got all that freedom there. Where do the majority of your participants come from live? So this is a list of pretty much every city, town, region in Ontario. So no matter how big or small, there's about 1,900 locations. All you have to do is start typing in the name, and then you'll see that you can click on the one that applies. So I've got Richmond Hill. Now I've already got a whole bunch in there that I put in. I'm going to put in another one just for fun. Let's just say Kitchener. So even though Thornhill Slow Pitch couldn't possibly be targeted at all of these places, the point is you actually do have the ability to put in as many places as you want based on what your organization services. So by all means, if it's a greater metropolitan area or if it's a bunch of smaller municipalities, by all means, there's no limit here. You can put in as many as you want. The more the merrier. How many staff does your organization employ? So this here is where we're going to start getting into some of the actual storytelling in regards to what COVID has done and how it's affected you. So what this is basically asking you is for 2019 and 2021 numbers for the staff that you have employed. So the number of paid full-time staff, which is defined as 30 plus hours per week and cannot include part-time or temporary staff. So you're going to put in the number for 2019 and then the number for 2021. So where were you before the pandemic? Where are you now? Number of paid part-time staff under 30 hours per week, can't include temporary staff. Once again, 2019, 2021, before the pandemic, now. And then finally, number of volunteers, including admin and executives, 2019, 2021. And then finally, all 3 years, we're asking for 2019, 2020, and 2021. How many participants does or did your organization have? So how many people were participating in 2019, 2020, and 2021? Now, the next section, we're just asking for a little bit of information. And again, it's not that it's going to affect anything at all in regards to the grant awarding, but it's just so that we can understand some information about the backgrounds of the organizations and sort of who you're serving. So we're asking what organization, who does your organization provide sports and activities for? So if you do for children, if you do for youth, adults, seniors, for cities and towns that are a large population, or for rural areas that are under 25,000. And once again, the freedom to select other. Do you provide unique and specialized programming, sports, or activities designed specifically for any underserviced groups? So it's not to say that any of these groups wouldn't be included. By all means, if they're included, wonderful, but it's more about, are you actually specifically designing programming to appeal to these groups, to attract these groups? Again, won't have any effect on the end result of the awarding of the grant, but it is just good to have this information so that we just understand a little more and just learn more about your organization. So ethnic and religious minorities, girls/women, Indigenous, LGBTQ2S+, low income, newcomers, refugees, persons with disabilities, somebody who we may not have identified, which you have the ability to describe, or feel free by all means. If you're not targeting anyone specific, it's okay to just say none of these. Okay. So once again, save and continue. So I should have done everything right. I shouldn't have anything stopping me. Great, no problem. So now we're on to the financial submissions. Now, there are two options here for organizations based on size and scope. You only have to complete one section. So the first section is, do you have complete yearly financial statements? Approved documents include records such as audited year-end financials, approved year-end financials, financial review engagement letters, financial review statements, etc. So if you're an organization who put some effort into making sure that you're keeping your books and that you have all that information, you're going to want to apply for this one. This is the more significant information of the two. So you're going to be asked to please upload your organization's financial documents, whether they're PDF, Excel, or CSV file. Those should be your standard formats that you would have those documents in. Almost everything can be saved to PDF now anyway. So then you're going to choose your file. I'm going to just use an example here of a PDF of business cards, so don't mind that. Now, something to note, if by accident you should happen to choose the same file twice, the system is not going to allow you to proceed past this. It's going to call you out on that. It's going to say, please upload another file. This one is already uploaded through another field. So that's just in case you accidentally put your 2019 statements twice or your 2020 statements twice, or if for some reason you don't happen to have the separate ones, then this is going to encourage you, make sure that you have these documents organized as well as possible, so that you know that you've got the three different documents, 2019, 2020, 2021. Don't bundle them all into one file and say, here, we're just going to upload one. We do need them separated into 2019, 2020, and 2021. Then we have these questions. What were your organization's total revenues in Canadian dollars? Must be consistent with your uploaded documents. So again, this is a little screenshot. We're going to get into some questions here that need to be reflected in the documents that you're uploading above. So what were your total revenues in 2019, 2020, and 2021? If applicable, what was your league or team's total gate receipts or ticket sales in Canadian dollars? Again, 2019, 2020, 2021. If applicable, what was your team or league's total annual sponsorship support in Canadian dollars? Again, 2019, 2020, and 2021. And what was your organization's cash balance in Canadian dollars? Again, in 2019, 2020, 2021. So all of those should be information that will appear in these files, but it's just you giving us a little snapshot. If you're all done here, you'll click Save and Continue. However, if you do not have financial statements, If this whole first statement didn't apply, you don't have financial statements, you can complete this section. This was section 2. If your organization does not, if your organization does not have complete yearly financial statements, but can provide evidence of financial hardships as a result of the pandemic, please complete this section. So at this point, you're going to tell us, did you experience losses of over 5,000 or under 5,000? And then you're going to provide 3 of your most substantial examples. So that can be receipts, invoices, any other proof of payments made or losses of opportunity. And you can provide these. I mean, we expect these to be a little less formal, so you can certainly supply PDF and Excel files, but we also allow, if you want to take pictures of these receipts, pictures of these invoices, by all means, JPEG, GIF, PNG. You're going to send us your 3 most substantial examples, 1, 2, and 3, and then please submit a brief description of the hardships your organization has endured as a direct result of the pandemic, as evidenced by your 3 submitted examples. So that's just you telling us the story of what these 3 files are. So again, option 1, if you have your financial statements, you have your 3 financial statements, tell us the snapshot of these numbers. Option 2, you give us over 5,000 or under 5,000 in losses, and then just tell us the story and give us 3 examples to the best of your ability. So I'm going to proceed under number 1. And this will take me to the 4th and final section. So what you'll see up here is that based on what you answered before, it's going to give you a little range. Well, it's a pretty big range, but based on the information provided in your application, your organization may be eligible for an emergency relief grant of between $10,000 and $150,000. The large range in potential funding is a result of the wide spectrum of applications requesting financial relief and demonstrating financial need due to impacts of the pandemic. So what we're basically saying there is that based on the answers and based on the sort of snapshot you've given us, you could be eligible for this range, and we won't know how much we can possibly award yet until we know how many people have applied. And obviously, once we've gone through our judging process, and looking at all the numbers, doing the analytics and understanding how many grants we can potentially give out, that's all done on the back end through OSN. But please note, this is not a confirmation of receiving funds. So even if you get to this, none of this system is telling you at all that you will receive anything. It's just that this is an application. You're giving us the information, no confirmation at all. It's just a preliminary estimate of eligibility, and it still requires review after the window is closed. So again, this is just an application. This is in no way, shape, or form telling you that anything has been awarded upfront. So the final questions here is where you get to do a little bit more typing. And here we're going to say, number 1, based on the financial and programming impacts of the last few years, to what extent is your organization able to return to pre-pandemic level of operations? So here you're going to pick one of 4 options. Number 1, you're not very able at all. Like you need up to a year to potentially rebuild. It's almost as if the organization is starting from scratch. Like it was pretty bad. But number 2 is not very able. We need about 6 months and then we'll be up and running. So it just means that, okay, we've been on hiatus, but we could be up and running over the next 6 months. Number 3 is somewhat able. So we just need a month or 2. So, we're pretty much ready to go. We just need to get everybody back. We need to give everyone we need to take a few actions and we'll be ready. And number 4 is honestly, like, we've been ready. We've already been ready. So let's get going. We're very able to get back right away. Then the next question here is basically going to be, okay, well, tell that story. Please provide with detail your financial recovery plan and what your organization will be prioritizing on your journey back to full programming. Your answer to this question should include specific examples of how the emergency relief funds will be used to ensure your organization's sustainability. So long story short, we're basically saying, based on this answer, tell us if you get a grant, what are you going to do with it? What is your plan? What are your next actions? And again, this is something, the reason that this isn't due until April 29th is because, you're going to need the time. You're going to want to be able to think about this, to talk about it with your committee, your board, other members, and be able to tell the right story. You have a maximum of 500 words, and as you're typing in, it will tell you exactly how many words you have left, okay? How does your organization positively affect your local community, and how would this grant help to improve this? So again, a little bit more of a story about your organization and its roots in the community, just a little something you can focus on. Maximum 500 words. You don't by any means have to go up to 500 words, but any story you can tell, it's obviously a bonus. And then the final part of this is just, it's a little check mark. It's a little, just a yes mark to say, if I am successful and our organization receives a grant, I am willing to provide photos and videos upon request, and I and possibly members of our board and committee can be available to be interviewed to provide details about our organization. So we just want to know that you are able and willing to publicize, hey, you know, we did do this, because, you know, we would love to be able to show the appreciation and love to the wonderful government who was able to make this possible. So once all is done, submit. You'll see a little hourglass that's uploading the files. I know it's a little redundant for an hourglass to spin and for the little sands to go, but you know, it's a fun little way for us to know that things are happening. So it may take a couple of minutes. But once it's done, that's it. So if you go back into your applications, now you will see, sorry, it'll just take a moment, that now, again, my Thornhill slow pitch has been submitted. So I think that about does it for me, and I'll pass it back over to Tommy.
David, I know you did a great job running through that application in about 15 minutes, but the goal was to make, you'll see the 4 steps was to try to make best efforts to make a succinct, user-friendly, and efficient application, where, as you can tell, that we've created the platform where financial records, or you need to demonstrate that need with evidence. Then there's also the piece about your plan and strategy to use the available funding to help get your programming and operations back on track. I think right now, just conscious of time, if I can do a screen share, I'm just going to show what's on our webpage with a little bit of the frequently asked questions, and then we're going to open it up the remainder of the Zoom time for questions. You'll see on our main landing page here, under the Emergency Relief Community and Recreation Grant, there's a list there about the eligibility for certain organizations and who's not eligible. And then you'll see, well, the Zooms today, I want to draw your attention to the frequently asked questions. So as a result of these Zoom calls, but also questions that myself and the team are receiving, we will be updating this frequently asked question page. You'll see last updated was just a few days ago. There's a list of 17 frequently asked questions that the team here brainstormed to sort of see, you know, where is it maybe it's confusing, or maybe it's unclear, there's some gray period. This answers it pretty well. I won't go item by item here, but you know, this was a good one that I said at the very beginning. My recreational sport club does not have a provincial sport organization at all. Can I still apply for this OSN grant? Absolutely. This is what the grant is focusing on you. Then there's a little bit as well about, well, what in the spirit of this grant, what can you use the funding for? We've given quite a bit of discretion, because obviously we know everyone's, whether it's a team, organization, a league, your journey through the pandemic has been challenging. There's been a lot of hardship in terms of financial losses, membership losses, revenue losses. But the spirit of this grant is not to build new capital, invest in new infrastructure, for example. It's to get your programming back on track. It's to perhaps execute on programs that you had in plan before the pandemic hit, and now's the time. Or it can be used to do a membership push, because you've lost a lot of members during the pandemic, or training for new staff. We've kept it quite open, but it's in the spirit of getting whatever it takes to get your organization or club back in better shape and back on its feet. So anyways, I won't go through all of them here, but I would say to everyone on the Zoom call to make sure you read this, and you can always follow up directly to us at the grants at ontariosportnetwork.ca email. But there's quite a bit there. There's also a little bit here in terms of steering you at the bottom here. If you're not successful in receiving this grant, or you're going through the eligibility or through the application, you see that this is not a fit for you, potentially, we will steer you in the right direction. There's some great opportunities out there. 2 examples right here are Jumpstart, as well as the Ontario Trilling Foundation, that perhaps could be a better fit for your respective organization. So without any further ado, I'll stop the screen share and Bianca, if there's been the ability for people, I don't know if they've put their hand up yet, or I'll put it over to you to sort of field some questions.
Yeah, so if anyone does have a question, feel free to put your hand up and I will unmute your mic so you can ask it.
Just to be very clear, so when you say put the hand up, since the cameras are off, I guess it's if you go into your Zoom and you click on reactions, there's a little button at the bottom that says reactions, and then you should see a raise hand button.
Like that, but not me. Yeah. I don't have a question, but yeah.
Okay, so give me 1 second, Barry.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for sharing this information. It looks incredibly well thought out. Someone who applies for grants all the time. It's really nice to see all the FAQ, everything walk through. So it's very, very helpful. We're a nonprofit league in Ontario that has faced some losses over the past couple of years and looking to get restarted for Australian Football League of Ontario. My question comes to regards to the losses. Is it the loss in revenue, or is it a loss between income and expenses that we're looking at? For example, our league ran approximately $50,000 in 2019. In 2020, there were zero. So are we looking at that as the loss amount between the two? Or are we looking at what we would have paid in, for example, 2020 in expenses that we were unable to recover because we had no revenue that year?
Yeah, David, yeah, you've done a great job there pulling it up there. So let's just, that is a fantastic question. Thank you very much on that. The way that we formatted this is that after uploading your financial statements, answering the question right below, what is your organization's total annual revenues from that historic period, will tell us the story that we need as long as the rest of the bottom is filled out with the balance as well. David, did we differentiate between the two?
Sorry, between the two, what, like explain the question exactly. The revenues versus income versus, like, are you asking about like the specifics of it? Because what I've got here, obviously, when we say revenue and then we talk about cash balance, like we don't go into anything about specific what those revenues specifically are, like income or anything to that effect. I mean, we've got it broken down into revenues, into receipts and ticket sales, sponsorship, and then of course your final cash balance. Most of the other information, I assume, would be in the financial statements. I guess the question is, are you suggesting that there should be anything else called out down here as something that needs to be entered?
We may have to unmute him again. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just sort of the way that you look at what you consider a loss, right? So if the league didn't run in 2022, we're obviously showing that we didn't have revenues of approximately $50,000. However, our losses, our expenses went from approximately $50,000 down to $5,000. So am I able to claim the 50, or am I able to claim only the losses of the 5? And I've had this, I do grants. We had this challenge with something we were offering for our association that I run as well. So it's just a clarification point for that. And on a side note, we don't have those financial statements. So we'd be submitting additional information showed below, because we're such a small organization that we don't do those financial returns, except actually we did one for 2019 specifically for grant purposes, but that's a case-by-case basis. So.
See, my feeling is that the answer to that is that your cash balance will probably tell the story, because if you have lower revenues and you have lower expenses, in the end, you're going to have a final cash balance that's probably going to tell your story. So I feel like that last field does kind of encompass what you're asking about.
Great, thank you.
And that's a fantastic question. We kind of sequenced it such that it kind of ended with balance, because we've also seen that some situations where because of maybe other grants, the balance has gone in the other direction. But to be fair, the story with the data that we're collecting, the balance at the end, the final question is going to be the one that we're really looking at, because it's demonstrating the journey to present day, and we want to help. We want this grant to help as many organizations, clubs, associations as possible. And you know, I think around the financial statements too, we've given a breadth of records that you can show. They don't need to be fully third-party audited, for example. But to your point, if you feel that the second grant option, which is you know, still you need to demonstrate through some, it could be the way David and his team is set up, it can even be a JPEG of significant receipts, but you still have the opportunity to receive some funding, some pandemic relief funding. So you know, we can also take this offline to have a further discussion on some of your financial records, because I think, to your point, this was a bit of a challenge to try to make sure that we capture the range of organizations that we want to capture. Thank you for your question. Bianca, is there, I think I saw 2 hands up.
No hands up at the moment, and no questions in the chat at the moment.
Look at that. 2 minutes to spare. Well, thanks everyone. Really appreciate it. Again, we're going to be repeating this. I'm trying to do a screen share here just to sort of say thank you. But we're going to be doing this repeated tonight, as well as on Thursday, and we're also going to be doing it at 12 and at 7 o'clock on Thursday. But if you have any further questions, the email there is grants@ontariosportnetwork.ca. The window in terms of time, we've given, it still is compressed timelines, but it's still, the grant window will close on April 29th at midnight. But we're here to field questions until then. I think we've got a very user-friendly grant application, and we're looking forward to seeing everyone's submission. Thank you very much.